Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to 5 tips to improve your vibrato on the oboe. You may think that you can't make vibrato or that you really struggle with it. There must be something wrong with you, you're not doing it correctly, maybe it's impossible for you to create. And my hope is that after I share some thoughts with you, that you feel that you can make vibrato too. Um, Vibrato is something that can add a lot to your playing as an oboist, and it's really fun to do. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me today. The reason I am doing these live presentations has a lot to do with how I got started on the oboe. So I'm from Canada. I'm Canadian, and I grew up in a very remote part of Canada, in North Canada. A really beautiful place full of rocks and trees and gorgeous lakes. And it was a great place to grow up until I started the oboe. And that's when I realized how remote I was. There weren't any other oboe players around, certainly no one that could help me with the instrument. And I really struggled. I didn't have access to a functioning instrument. I didn't have access to functioning reeds, and I certainly didn't have access to good information. And if you fast forward now 25 years, I feel very grateful that I make my living playing the oboe. I love doing it, and I help others with their oboe journey. I love teaching, and I reflect that my experience of the instrument did not have to be so frustrating. It did, there were many times when I almost gave up, and I found it really hard to know how to sound good on the instrument. And now we have this amazing resource called the internet. So that's why I'm doing these live presentations, is I don't want you to have to struggle the way that I did. I felt like I had the opportunity to be in rarefied rooms around wonderful oboe pedagogues, but there were only a few of us there. And I'd like to get this great information out there. It's also why I created an awesome program called the Oboe Path. It's an online program, and it has broken down the steps necessary to improve on the oboe. It uses a group online masterclass, personalized feedback, and a customized plan to enable an oboist to play with joy and ease. With the group online masterclass, an oboist joins a community of like-minded oboe players, and this helps with accountability and inspiration practice. With personalized feedback, an oboe player goes to their practicing knowing exactly what they need to do, and so they see the results immediately. With the customized plan, practicing and improving on the oboe can fit into an oboist's busy life. Let's get to it. 5 tips to improve the vibrato on your oboe. So the first thing I want to talk about today is, what is the purpose of vibrato? Vibrato is not just something that you add willy-nilly or is a constant part of your sound. Vibrato is something that we add to music to help the music sound better. It's not something that we add to the music to improve intonation. It is something that we add to music to make the music be more beautiful. I guess on its simplest form, it's to make it more beautiful. There are some instances where just a straight tone is gorgeous. And there are some instances with having the presence of vibrato can make a really big difference. So the purpose of your vibrato is to make your musical line more beautiful. That is its purpose. The second, and I think thinking about the purpose will help you sort of frame when to use vibrato, because it is not all the time. It is not something that when you're playing you should always be using vibrato, because you will sound like this, like something is always moving. And when I speak, do you hear that I want to have a petit liaison? Like I want things to be sort of connected so you can understand how the music is, and it's the same. So so much of playing a wind instrument is like speech or singing. And if you hear a wonderful opera singer, many of them are using their vibrato in a very particular way. I get, at least the opera singers that I love, and I, you know what, I have fashioned my vibrato after the opera singers that I love. And what I have observed, and this is how I was taught vibrato, is that vibrato is not something that goes up and down. You know, there's this sort of impression that it kind of goes wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. And that's not true. At least the vibratos that I really like, they actually help the music feel like it's going forward or coming back. So, and see how I'm kind of pulsating forward and then coming back. That's that's the vibrato that I really like. It moves the musical line forward or back. You know what? Let me demonstrate that for you. I'll just do a half full D, and I'll step up so you can see the whole oboe here. So my intention is that you feel like that note was moving forward and then it receded. And I was partly doing that with dynamics, but I was partly doing that with my vibrato. So that's the kind of vibrato that I really like. I've worked with many students, and one of the things that we talk a lot about is not using the vibrato to change the pitch or to make your pitch fit in with others. I mean, certainly, there are some times in a chord where if I add a little vibrato, it just makes everything okay. But generally, I would like to play in my ensembles mostly without vibrato. When I use vibrato is when I'm doing a solo. What I suggest to my students and what I try to emulate is that I want my vibrato to come from underneath and touch up to the point of the pitch that is in tune. I don't want my vibrato to be going above the pitch. When that happens, that's when you get some really significant issues with intonation, and you can sound quite sharp. So for whatever reason with your ear, it hears the top part of your vibrato of where you're moving the vibrato through time. If you're the top part that you're putting the vibrato on, that's where the pitch should be. So thinking of the vibrato coming from underneath. The fourth thing I want to talk to you about is where the vibrato comes from. So there's lots of different schools of thought about this. And I can only teach you what I know, which is I use a diaphragmatic, wow, I can't say that. Diaphragmatic vibrato. Ow. But I know many players use a throat vibrato. And I often really love their playing. And so they, and so that's great. They can, I'm not saying that that's a bad option, but I can't teach you about the throat vibrato. What I can teach you is the diaphragmatic vibrato that comes from down here. And what I notice is that when I'm using a slow vibrato, if I'm playing English horn or some low notes on the oboe, I'm using a lot of my diaphragm. And then as I try to produce a faster vibrato, it sort of moves up my body. It doesn't get into the throat, but is sort of sitting up here as it's vibrating. And so if you're already using throat vibrato, terrific. Maybe try the diaphragmatic vibrato. That might give you another option, another tool in your toolkit of things of beauty you can bring to your musical lines. And I'm going to show you how to get a diaphragmatic vibrato going. So I'm going to use I'm literally going to pulse with my diaphragm. And I'm going to do this really slowly so you can hear how I get a vibrato started with a student. So I'm literally going to push from here, like this, almost like that Lamaze breathing. And I'm surging air up. And so I'm going to hold a D natural and just surge from my diaphragm. You're going to hear it, the air coming up and forward. beginning of my vibrato. Now, I never play vibrato that slowly. And I actually never subdivide the rhythm with my vibrato in any way. But I find that exercise very beneficial to for a student to learn how to vibrate from there. So, and I'm literally, if you can see my hand, let's see my hand. I'm pushing. Do you see my hand moving? That is not me moving my arm. That's literally my hand just resting on my tummy, and I'm using my diaphragm, that muscle beneath my lungs, to push out. And I'm pulsating that while I'm blowing on the oboe. So and then once you have that going, and you hear it's quite a big difference in sound, you can really hear it being present. As I get faster, its presence becomes less. So what I would suggest is, if you would like to, once you have this diaphragm vibrato going, and I want to be absolutely clear, this is not your abdominal muscles working. If they were, I'd have a six-pack, but I don't. This is your diaphragm. It is your abdominal wall is not involved in this at all. It is the muscle underneath your lungs. Once you have that going, you can play this recording and try to emulate that pulsating sound. Once you have that, then you want to try to gain control. And one of the ways to do that is by trying to connect with your metronome and having it be in rhythm. So this is, to be clear, not how we play music, but this is the way for you to gain control. This is how you can gain physical control of your vibrato. So I'm going to imagine this beat inside. And then you can play with that and do eighth notes and triplets and sixteenths. And then quintuplets. And that's how you can improve the control of your vibrato. I hope you found this helpful. Vibrato is something that I love thinking about. I love changing. When I play a solo, I'll use different kinds of vibratos in the rehearsals and then the concerts. For me, this is when we get really into the artistry of being a musician, as to like, when do we use this tool? And it's so fun to explore. So I would encourage you to try to add this into your toolkit. I think it's a really fun way to make yourself feel more and sound, well, feel more, but sound more expensive, sound more beautiful, sound more intentional in your artistic presentation of your instrument. Something else that can help with your vibrato is choosing the right reed. Some reeds allow a vibrato in a way that other reeds don't. That is something that you may want to consider depending on what kind of music you're playing, what kind of music you're practicing, what kind of music you're performing. And I have something that might help you on that journey of trying to choose a better reed for your vibrato. For me, the vibrato is connected to the resistance of your reed. So I would encourage you, I have a training underneath this video. There's a link. It'll take you to a PDF and a video. And you really want to listen closely in the resistance part of my reed selection process that I use, because that's going to help you have a reed that you can produce a lovely vibrato on. And again, the link is below this video. I hope you find that helpful. Let's all become the oboe players we were meant to be, the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play the oboe with joy and ease. Take care.